Kurt Warner just exposed the 49ers offense in the absolute nicest way possible. Hello, welcome to a special afternoon edition of the Cohn Zone. That's the legendary Cohn, Lowell Cohn. I'm his son, Grant Cohn, and we're all coming off watching a lot of football yesterday, the Seahawks winning, the Patriots winning, and the Niners didn't win. They lost last week. So we're going to be a little critical today, and we're going to let Kurt Warner's criticism inform ours. But we understand that you're 49er fans, and we don't want you to feel like we're dumping on the Niners for not making it as far as the Seahawks. We want to remind you that they had an excellent season, and we're proud of them. Just wanted to say that. They did a great job. They maybe made it further than they should have, and we're proud of them. Is there anything you want to add, Dad?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about the Niners. Next week, we'll preview the Super Bowl. So this is strictly Niner-oriented. What we learned from yesterday's game and from their final game against Seattle.
What was so interesting about this video from Kurt Warner is that he actually made it about a week ago, just after the Niners lost to the Seahawks. I didn't see it, and it came to my attention this morning. I watched the whole thing. I showed it to you. You watched the whole thing, and it's about 37 minutes. And a lot of times when you watch a film breakdown, it's hard to watch because we didn't play football. We didn't coach football. It's a totally different language. Kurt does it in such a great way where you're captivated. You were going to watch 10 minutes, and then you watched the whole thing.
Oh,
right?
I couldn't stop.
And what was so interesting about it was he doesn't have an agenda. He didn't go into it trying to blame the Niners' offensive problems on any one person or one thing. He just went play for play and showed all the different issues. And there were a lot. So should we go through them?
Yes.
I mean, again, what made it so interesting is basically his theme was the Niners didn't have to be that bad on offense against the Seahawks. The Seahawks defense is good, but it's not that good. There are opportunities against it. And I think the Rams prove that multiple times against this defense. So what he showed about the Niners against this particular defense, a lot of times he didn't like the route combinations to start with. He would show a lot of times where 2 and 3 receivers either ran into each other or were running near each other by design. And he would say things like, I don't know what we're doing here. That was a start. And then so the route combinations he didn't like. He didn't like the routes. A lot of times he would point at Jauan Jennings without calling him out by name and say, I don't even know what kind of route this is supposed to be. It's an undefined route. Could be a curl, could be a dig, could be a post. If it's a post, can't throw that. If it's a dig, you do want to throw that. I mean, and showing how Brock Purdy's in a really tough situation. Like, what is he seeing here? What are you running?
Yeah. Jauan Jennings, his criticisms were polite but forceful. He was essentially saying, tell me if I'm wrong, Iggy. He was running lazy routes.
Yes.
Lazy routes that he wasn't
not full speed, not really making crisp breaks, kind of just rounding everything off.
Rounding everything off. And he showed. And so Jauan Jennings himself put Purdy in a lot of bad positions because if he was the primary receiver, he wasn't free and he wasn't where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. That was a big one. So he really didn't have a lot of nice things to say about Jauan. He kept like sighing, like, "Oh, what is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing?"
He kept saying "we" as opposed to them. He was trying possessive, and he would see Jauan, but also, sorry, I'm coughing today, Sky. These route combinations, and he showed he slowed it down. He did it again and again, where you'd see two guys next to each other. And all kind of defenders around them. He said, how can you do that? And then he would just go like this. Oh, and he would sigh, meaning, how could you do that to your quarterback? Yeah. And if I had that, clearly, he didn't say it, he would object.
Yep. So he had a bunch of examples of the Niners coaches and receivers doing Brock Purdy no favors. But he also had examples of Brock Purdy making a mistake. There was one where he took a drop and floated all the way back to 11 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then darted forward and scrambled, where Kurt Warner says there's no reason to take the drop to 11 yards. Actually stop your feet at 9 yards, which is where they coach you to stop. step up in the pocket. The offensive tackles can push the edge rushers past you, and then you can rip this throw to a wide open receiver running a dig route 15 yards downfield. And he showed it. So there were examples of Brock Purdy sort of making life difficult on himself by, with his footwork or with not being fundamental.
Yeah, there were things that Warner saw. I would throw it here. Why didn't he do it? He's looking here. He should have looked here.
Yeah.
Right?
I think some of the most compelling things that he showed was like the progressions, though. At the very end, he showed there's a few plays like this where he's like, you got Purdy looking on this side of the field, and I don't know why. You got 2 receivers here and 3 receivers here, and he's looking at the 2 receiver side, and there's no advantage over here. There's no one open. And now he has to mid-play flip across the field and figure out where everyone is over here and go through progressions 3, 4, 5 in 2 seconds. And the last one he showed was the fumble. He starts off looking right and tries to get all the way back to the check down, which is the 5th read on the left side of the field. And before he gets there, he gets sacked and he fumbles the ball. And Warner's point is like, why are you treating quarterbacks? Well, first of all, is it that Kyle is forcing him to go through his progressions like this, or is it that Brock doesn't know any better? Because what Kurt said is like, before the snap, they're not disguising the coverage. You can see it's cover 4. And you should know, based on your route combinations, that the 2 receiver side, what they had drawn up, wasn't going to win. No one was going to be open against that look. So you should be going to the 3 receiver side, the one with the running back running a swing route, and understand you're going to have numbers, three eligibles against 2 coverage guys, and someone has to be open. And why couldn't you figure that out? Is it that's how Kyle coaches it, or are you just repeatedly looking at the wrong side of the field? Because I know. Yeah, go ahead.
And we didn't know who was culpable. But
No.
What I think, in his polite way, he wasn't singling out Kyle or Brock, but he was blaming both along the way. Very much so.
He was saying, like what he would do is he would read the defense before the snap and then eliminate one side of the field most likely, so that his progression is 1-2 or 1-2-3, not 1-2-3-4-5 from right to left or left to right. That's impossible unless you have the greatest offensive line of all time. And I guess it's disconcerting that the 49ers don't really have that, or that Brock Purdy isn't really there yet where he can quickly eliminate options and get to the best one and read the right side of the field correctly. I mean, we know that he ran for more than 400 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and it wasn't all his fault, but some of it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a guy known to be an intelligent quarterback, but looking at that analysis, you would think he was in the preliminary stages.
Yeah. And again, this is Kurt Warner talking. And if kids, you don't remember Kurt Warner, he was not a scrambler. He was a statue. He stood in one place and went to 3 Super Bowls and won 1 and won at least 2 MVPs. And he's in the Hall of Fame. And he's one of the best pocket passers of all time. So he's worth listening to. He knows what he's talking about.
And other things he said was, Purdy is too apt to take the check down. There are other passes down the field. And he showed they were wide open down the field. But he would go to Christian because maybe he felt comfortable. And he would say, well, he moved the chains. That's good. He stayed ahead of the chains. That's good. But there were better passes down the field. And he showed it again and again and again.
Yeah. He's like, there's a guy open here running a deep comeback, and you're looking on the wrong side of the field. There were a few plays like that. Or there's a guy open running a dig route, but you're already running out of the pocket because your drop was too deep.
Yeah. And Iggy,
or you have 3 receivers in the same spot, and it's not your fault.
And the other one he didn't like from Shanahan, when guys would go down the field, go left, and then go right, go back.
The return route. That takes forever. Yeah.
And he said, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like
one
it.
Of these return routes, I would just have a curl here so the guy could be open now.
Yep.
As opposed to waiting for him to go over there and come back.
So what he was, I'm going to summarize. What he was saying was, sure, Seattle's defense is very good, but you can beat it. And again, the Rams lost, but they scored points. So he was
every time they played that team.
Yeah. So what he was saying was, against Seattle, it wasn't only Seattle's defense, that the Niners were their own worst enemy. That's what he was
And it
saying.
wasn't only that the Rams had a better offensive line, and it wasn't only that the Rams had Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. It was that Kyle Shanahan didn't have the answers. His plays weren't working. His receivers weren't running good routes. It makes you wonder about the whole operation. Who's coaching these guys? Who's drawing this stuff up?
Yeah. And I'd like to say something else. Steve Young said the other day that it's known that Kyle is the best offensive mind in the league, the best play caller. Well, I wonder if Kurt Warner would say that, because JT O'Sullivan is very good, and I've seen him say things again. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
Remember, we've heard him say that. So it's not just one guy. So is Kyle really the best play designer, the best play caller? I don't think Seattle thinks he is. I bet they think Sean McVay's better.
Yeah, and it's funny, we both came away from that game saying, like, boy, Seattle's defense is just impenetrable. It's impossible to be. The Niners, they're outmanned. And then you watch the film, it's like, no, the Niners played pretty poorly.
Yeah, and that's what he emphasized. And again, he didn't have an axe to grind.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have plays where you got Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson running into each other quickly off the snap on fourth down. It's like, well, that's JV stuff. But then the thing that's most interesting to me is Brock looking at the wrong side of the field. They got to figure that out. Is that Kyle Shanahan being, a micromanager and telling him where to look, or is that Brock Purdy just not knowing? Because you'd think by year 4 in the NFL, as smart as he seems to be, that he would be very quick at figuring out which side of the field to read.
Yeah, and we'll never know the answer to that.
And what Warner kept pointing out was like, you got 2 receivers here and 3 receivers here. Why are you looking at the 2 receiver side? You don't have numbers over there. What did you think you saw? If you're going to throw to the 2 receiver side, you better see some like matchup that you really like, or a guy who's just won immediately and get the ball out of your hands now. Because if you go to the 2 receiver side and it's 2-on-2, there's a real chance that you get stuck there and no one's open, and now you got to go, crap, I'm looking back over here or I'm running. And Kurt Warner couldn't run. So he had to make all these decisions instantly. And I think he was thinking like, hey, I'm probably going to look at the 3 receiver side because I got a check down guy over there. I got guys here. Could work, could not. And you keep looking over there. Why? Is how they coach you to do it? I don't know.
And so he would immediately eliminate half the field.
Yes. And he's looking at the side of the field that has the running back, that has the check down guy, whereas Brock kept having to scramble around and then throw back across the field to a check down guy. We saw that multiple times. And it looked heroic and very cool, and they would get a first down, but it's like, man, that's not how they draw it up. That's very difficult. You're making this. Didn't he say you're making this more difficult than it needs to be?
He said that at least once, that they're making it more difficult for themselves than it needs to be. And again, I question Kyle Shanahan. I'm sure he's a good play designer and a good play caller. Is he the best? Certainly not against Seattle. In fact, he's not very good against Seattle.
I mean, the best offensive coach in the league has receivers running into each other, have receivers jogging through routes and rounding off breaks. You have quarterbacks looking at the wrong side of the field. I mean, it looked like a mess. That's what Kurt Warner was essentially saying in the nicest way. This offense is a mess, and it's no one person's fault. But who's responsible for this? Oh, the best offensive coach in the league.
Iggy, a subset of all this is they have to get rid of Jauan Jennings.
Let's talk about it.
Well, to me, he's become Deebo Samuel. He doesn't try his hardest on every route. And if he wants a lot of money, get rid of him, draft somebody, get somebody in free agency, trade for somebody. Iggy, he didn't have a lot of yards this season, did he?
600 something. He had a lot of touchdowns, but you could replace him.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay him money. He's getting older. He gets hurt a lot. And according to Warner, and he showed it, there are better route runners than he is.
Yeah. And again, I don't think the Niners' issue against the Seahawks is just like they don't have the right receivers. Like, you could have the best receivers, but if Kyle Shanahan keeps drawing up plays where they're all running side by side, holding hands, they're not going to get open. So it seems to me that really Kyle needs to go back to the drawing board, so to speak. And instead of spending, this guy's going to be expensive, at least $17 million a year. Instead of spending all that money on a wide receiver who's slow and can't get open and will jog through routes or whatever, spend that money on the offensive line.
Oh, that's the other thing. You need their offensive line, I'm going to say, was adequate. Adequate. but it's not an offensive line. It doesn't take the attack to the other team. As a result, they're always at a disadvantage and they're always getting the other team's attack.
Mm-hmm.
Purdy is always running around a lot. Now, I don't think McCaffrey's a good running back anymore, but they didn't get any holes for him.
He gets hit in the backfield a lot.
Yeah, you can't really be a power in the NFL with that crappy offensive line. In addition, Trent Williams is older. He never plays a full season. Sometimes he misses the most important games. And did I lose you, Iggy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I don't know. I'll figure it out. Keep talking.
Okay. They need an offensive lineman who is right now better than Trent Williams. That it's sad that he's the best offensive lineman on the team because he's on the way down. They need another stud. They need another stud a lot of places, but on the offensive line, they need another stud. And Iggy, they don't have one. There you are. There he is.
There he is.
Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, here's a point. When the Niners went to the Super Bowl the first time with Kyle Shanahan, 2019, Joe Staley was the left tackle, first-round pick. Laken Tomlinson was the left guard, first-round pick. Now, the Niners didn't draft Laken Tomlinson, but he had that pedigree. They signed him. The center was Weston Richburg, second-round pick. The right guard was Mike Person, who was a seventh-round pick, but the right tackle was Mike McGlinchey, who was a first-round pick. They took it seriously. They made real investments. And when Harbaugh was the head coach, Staley, Yapati was a first-round pick. Anthony Davis was a first-round pick. That's three. Right now, the Niners got Trent Williams was a first-round pick. The left guard was Spencer Burford, fourth-round pick. Jake Brendel, undrafted free agent. Dominic Pooney, third-round pick. And Colton McKivitz, fifth. They're trying their best to get guys off the scrap heap, and they do okay. But what do you really expect from them?
Right, and you can't compete with Seattle or the Rams if that's where you're at on your offensive line. We're not even getting to the defensive line, but it's a liability in that division.
Clearly, the Rams have better wide receivers than the 49ers, and that helps them against the Seahawks. But watching that 38-year-old quarterback stand still and have all the time in the world to throw down the field, it's not exactly the Brock Purdy experience against Seattle. Clearly, the Rams have a better offensive line, and Stafford has more time to throw, and that helps him.
Yeah. So when we say they need an offensive line, it's not sexy. It's not like saying they need a new quarterback. You know what I mean? It's offensive line. You don't even know what these guys look like. But boy, is it important. I mean, the best teams have good offensive lines.
They do. The Seahawks have a good offensive line. What the Seahawks have is a really good offensive line, a great defense, a good running game, one great receiver, and a quarterback who's, Alex Smith. Pretty good, physically gifted, smart guy, not elite. Managing the game most of the time, can make some nice throws, but that's a winning formula. Meanwhile, the Niners are asking Brock Purdy to be Superman and giving him very little protection and no good receivers. That's not fair.
In addition, Iggy, he's not Superman.
Nope.
He's not. No. Kurt Warner was Superman.
Yeah.
Brett Favre was Superman. Joe Montana was Superman. Yeah. This kid is not Superman. This kid's a good quarterback.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the way I look at it is instead of spending all this money on receivers, which hasn't gone well for the 49ers, you have a very good quarterback. You have a supposedly very good offensive coach. As long as you give this quarterback time to go through reads, he should be able to find someone open, and Kyle should be able to scheme someone open. That's what they're paying him to do. So it seems like such a no-brainer. If you invest in the offensive line, it's going to bring out the best of Brock, bring out the best in Christian, and bring out the best in Kyle. That's what they got to do. And if they re-sign Jauan, it'll be lazy, and it'll be a big mistake. Big mistake.
Do you think they'll re-sign him?
100%. You know why? Because he knows the system, and he's friends with Kyle.
Okay.
Except for when they're yelling at each other.
All right. I'm saying they won't I don't want to bet, but I'm saying they won't re-sign him.
I'll bet you a pen.
I'll bet you a pen. And
a
ballpoint pen. Okay, I like that bet. And here's the thing. I don't think that. Here's my reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as they are at managing their roster, I don't think they're complete imbeciles. I'm giving them credit not for being smart, but for not being complete imbeciles. And that's why I don't think they'll re-sign him.
Fair enough. I think Kyle wants to re-sign him. But to your point, I don't know that Kyle just gets everything he wants anymore. I think he did a few years ago. But I would imagine Parag would say, no, Kyle, we're not spending $18 million a year on Jauan. And I think that might have some weight.
I hope so. I
Yeah,
hope somebody there knows what he's
our
doing.
only hope. Yeah.
Parag, you're my only hope.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's my interesting thought. You're my only hope, Parag.
Okay. Sam Darnold is going to the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold just had the best game of his career. I kept picking against the Seahawks solely because I expected him to mess up. And not only did he not, he's been playing really well. How would you compare him to Brock Purdy now that Sam Darnold's doing so well?
Okay, I'm going to come at it around the barn. I listened to some of Brady talking yesterday. I can't all the time. They drive me crazy. But whenever he talked about Darnold during the game that I heard, it was really tepid, backhanded praise.
Yeah.
Boy,
not exactly surgical.
Yeah, he said, boy, he's not surgical. He's explosive. They have an explosive offense, but not exactly surgical, meaning he's going to screw up at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as he kept not screwing up and matching Stafford, they were almost identical, their numbers. He kept saying, this is surprising to me. And I want to say he wasn't being a jerk because Darnold has a reputation of giving up the ball. He has a he really does it. So, and it offends Brady. So that's coming around the barn. Compare him to Brock Purdy. Okay, Iggy, if you put Brock Purdy on Seattle now, could he do as well or better than Sam Darnold on Seattle?
I don't think so. But I think it's a fit. Well, I don't think Darnold's that much better than Brock, or maybe he might not even be better than Brock at all. But you saw that big throw he had to Rashid Shaheed up the right sideline. There's all this speed on the Seahawks, and there's a need for a quarterback who can get the ball down the field. And that's what Darnold can do. He's a very strong arm, and I don't know that some of that speed might be lost on Brock Purdy is what I'm trying to say. I think Darnold's a better fit for that offense, but in this offense where you're throwing to running backs and tight ends consistently, that might be a better fit for Brock.
Than Darnold for the Niners.
Yeah, because there's no speed, so there's no explosiveness, and there's really nothing for Darnold. You can't really take advantage of what he does well. He needs to throw the ball on the field.
And if he's not surgical, that wouldn't work for the Niners and for Kyle. Okay. I think we could
Purdy
say
can do all that scrambling. I don't think the Seahawks need him to do because they have a good offensive line. I mean, Darnold can stand still on that team.
But he can throw very well on the run, right and left. He can. Okay. Some things we can say. I think Darnold had a better season than Brock Purdy.
I think Darnold had a better last 2 seasons than Brock Purdy.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, in Minnesota, he also won 14 games last year. Now, he was awful in the playoffs, but at least he made it there, unlike Brock. And then this year, he won 14 games. He went to the playoffs. And this year, he's really good in the playoffs. It seems like not only is he improving, he's able to play quarterback at a high level without getting hurt, which is something that Brock is having a tough time doing.
He doesn't get hurt. I mean, he has the oblique, but he keeps playing well.
He stays. Yeah, Brock missed 8 games with a toe injury, and I'm sure it was very painful, but he didn't play, which is rough.
8 games is a lot of games when you're paying a guy $55 million. So, okay, what we know is Sam had a better last 2 seasons than Brock. That each is a better fit for the team he's on right now. If I had to choose between the two of them, if I were starting a team and I only had a choice of them, I would take Sam Darnold, even though I would like Purdy. How about you?
I would too. And I think what we're seeing with Sam is he's really improved a lot over the last 2 years, and I don't know that Brock has. You could argue that he's regressed a little bit, that he's seeing the field worse, that he's holding the ball longer, that he's turning the ball over more. which is strange. I think with Darnold, if you look back at his career, he was drafted very high. Purdy wasn't. He had to go to the Jets. His coach was Adam Gase, who gave him the Peyton Manning offense. No one can run that except Peyton Manning. Since then, Adam Gase has been out of the league. Then he went to Carolina. His coach was Matt Rule, running college offense. Rule's out of the league. He came to the Niners. That was his first exposure to an NFL offense. He spent the year learning it. Now, he knows an NFL offense. He can execute it pretty well. He's a big guy. He can see the field, and he can play a full season. Brock's great, but he's little, and his game requires so much running around. I think it's just neither one's elite in my eyes, but one guy's safer, and one guy's probably going to have a longer career.
Yeah.
Who would you feel more confident is going to be starting quarterback at 35, Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy?
I'd say Sam. I also think you've made a good point that Sam continued to learn and to grow. He's better than he was a few seasons ago. It seems like Brock hit his ceiling early, and either he's there or regressed. I think this is the best he's ever going to be.
I think so too. And he had the fortune of being drafted into a good system with a good coach. And Darnold didn't. I think you could kind of throw out the first 5 years of his career and kind of act like his career started once he got to the Niners, kind of like Brock Purdy. And since then, Darnold's had this upward trajectory, and Brock Purdy hasn't.
No, absolutely not. If anything, he's gone. I mean, just the injuries alone.
Yeah.
And Iggy against Seattle in the last game, Purdy was awful. Iggy,
so bad.
What was his pass rating? Was like 54.
Yeah.
I mean, that's lower than the earthworm.
Yeah, and that doesn't even account for the fumble that he lost. It is lower than the earthworm. And I think what's so interesting too about Darnold, the word on him was that he was a choker and a loser, and he finally changed the narrative for himself, and that's wonderful. It's interesting that Brock doesn't have that narrative. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's not a choker, but he turns the ball over just as often as Darnold. And Darnold is the one that everyone's like, oh my God, he's going to blow it. And no one really thinks that about Brock Purdy, which is an interesting perception thing. It's an issue for both of them. At least it hasn't been an issue for Darnold recently.
Well, it's an issue.
I want to say one thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. And we'll see about Darnold in the Super Bowl.
That's what I was going to say.
But so far, he's been a lot more steady than Brock. But a lot of funny things happen in Super Bowls.
Yeah, I think everyone's expecting the Seahawks to win because they've been so dominant and the Patriots kind of eat in. But just remember that the last 3 weeks, Darnold has faced the Niners twice. Their defense is not good. And the Rams, whose defense is not good. Now, the Patriots have a very good defense. They have a great cornerback who's going to go on the Seahawks' great wide receiver. It's going to be a lot harder. So Darnold's going to have to earn it.
In addition, Iggy, the Patriots are a tough team. I'm not speaking about, I am speaking about the Rams. The Niners are soft. They are. They're soft. And the Rams aren't that tough either.
That's true. That's the truth. On that note, let's compare Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch to Mike McDonald and John Schneider. You just described the team that Shanahan and Lynch have put together as soft. It wasn't a few years ago. It is now. It's soft. It's old. It's slow. It's injury prone, as opposed to that young juggernaut they got in Seattle.
Well, let's compare offenses first, Iggy.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle has the one wide receiver in Jigba. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Mm-hmm.
Iggy, I'm looking at him. It's Justin Jefferson. It's Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
I mean, he made a one-handed catch yesterday.
Yeah. He's incredible.
And, the Niners as a receiver, I want to be clear on this. They don't have anybody in his universe.
No.
There is not one wide receiver on the 49ers who is in his universe. And that would including the poor Brandon Ayuk, whatever is happening with that poor soul.
That is true.
He was a good player, but not like this kid. So they don't have a weapon like that. I'm going to say more. Running backs. Iggy, they had the two running backs, but the UCLA guy got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have the one. What's it, Williams the third?
No. Walker. Kenneth Walker, the third or fourth.
Walker.
Yep.
And he is not a great running back, Iggy, but he's a tough running back, and he can get good yards up the middle.
He's fast.
Who the hell do the Niners have like that?
Yeah.
And what's more, these guys aren't old. The Niners have made it very clear in their post-mortem a few days ago, they're going to continue to start Christian McCaffrey as their running back, which means they're going to run their offense through that poor guy who they're killing. Iggy.
If the Niners had Kenneth Walker, they wouldn't even use him.
No, he'd be on the sideline.
Yep.
So, wide receiver and running back, the Niners have a complete deficiency compared to Seattle. Complete deficiency and too old. So we come back. Who put this team together? Schneider up there, he put together a team that did very well in the past, that won a Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's doing another team.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give John Lynch credit that he put together a team that went to Super Bowls, didn't win. Mm-hmm. Now he's done everything wrong. If he's the one, because he may just be a figurehead, there may be no one really who has a vision of how to put together a team. There may be no one there like that. Maybe they think it's Kyle, but he doesn't. They have a team compared to Seattle. I'm just talking offense now, that is too old and is on the decline. What Bill Walsh always wanted was youth, rejuvenate. We want to move ahead, and he would get rid of older good players. Iggy, you could make a case that the Niners, if they knew what was going to happen this season, should have gotten rid of Bosa, Fred Warner, and Kittle.
Yep.
And I think Bill, I wish I could talk to him. I think he would at least be tempted to get rid of every one of them.
Yeah, it's a young man's game. Steve Young said it the other day, and you look at the team that John Schneider and Mike Macdonald put together. Mike Macdonald's a great coach, but the star of that organization is Schneider, and there are no, he's not overpaying for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's good, but they didn't give him $50 million a year. They gave him 30, and if he wanted 35, he probably wouldn't have been on the team. They don't have these awful contracts like the Niners have. Brock, he's overpaid. Good player, but he's overpaid. I mean, Brandon Ayuk was one of the worst contracts in the history of the sport. George Kittle's hurt and expensive. Fred Warner's hurt and expensive. Nick Bosa's hurt and expensive. I mean, they have a bunch of Trent Williams is expensive and old. The Seahawks don't have those things. They're not built like that. They just have a really good GM in the Niners.
And I want to say something, Iggy, symbolically, the fact that they hold on to the fullback. It is such an old idea. He contributes very little. You could have a tight end block the way he does, a younger, more vibrant player who could catch passes. The fact that Kyle keeps going back to him, it means he's not growing at all, Iggy. As a play designer, as a football philosopher, he's stuck in the Middle Ages. He is. He's back there with these Middle Ages.
You think Sean McVay would want Kyle Juszczyk?
I don't think any sensible coach would want him.
You think Andy Reid would want him? No.
Not in a million years. No. You'd want a better player, a more dynamic player on the field. And the fact that Kyle settles for this because his system uses it tells you so much more about Kyle. And it tells you that Macdonald up in Seattle is a more open-minded thinker than Kyle.
Yep. And I want to come back to Schneider for a second. This guy has been there a very long time. He was originally with the Packers back in the 90s under Ron Wolf, who's like the most famous general manager of all time. So he has real pedigree. And he built the first Seahawks Super Bowl team with a defensive coach. And he built the second Super Bowl appearing team with a defensive coach. And he's running that organization. It's not like Mike Macdonald tells him who he wants and he's putting a good face on Mike Macdonald's decisions. These are his decisions. And that's a big difference from the way the Niners do business.
Whose decisions are the Niners?
You got me. I think they're Kyle's, but he doesn't want people to know. They don't want anyone to really know who's making decisions, so you can't really hold them accountable.
Yeah. Well, what I'd have to say is who's ever made the decisions lately, the decisions have been not to make decisions, have to keep stay on offense. It's a form of a decision not to make a decision. You're deciding not to decide. Look what they've done. That offense, Iggy, is dead in the water.
Yeah, it is. And it felt like for so long that Kyle was so far ahead of the rest of the league that he could just coach his way to winning. But now you're not a better coach than Mike Macdonald. And in addition, they have such a vastly superior front office to what you have. It's going to be hard to see the Niners bridging the gap. I mean, the gap could be getting wider.
Certainly on defense, the gap between Seattle and the Niners is vast.
Yes.
And what's more, the Niners always used the wide 9 thing.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that Seattle has really innovated that defense.
Yeah.
Using all those defensive backs.
Yeah.
Going small.
Yeah. And again, like the Niners are, they talk about wanting to use like the Seattle defense. Seattle doesn't use the Seattle defense anymore. That's the Pete Carroll defense. And the idea that the Niners are like seriously considering Gus Bradley must make John Schneider and Mike Macdonald giggle.
Yeah, I would think so. We're going to kick their ass twice next season.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about the coaches in the Super Bowl in a minute, but first I want to shout out this week's sponsor, Mint Mobile. Now that the holidays are over, you might be feeling like you've got a big spending hangover. The drinks, the holiday food, the gifts, it all adds up. Luckily, Mint Mobile is here to help you cut back on overspending on wireless this January with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Mint Mobile's end-of-year sale is still going on, but only until the end of the month. Cut out big wireless, bloated plans, and unnecessary monthly charges with 50% off 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. This January, quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Cohn. That's mintmobile.com/COHN. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan is required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. Okay, thank you, Mint Mobile. Dad, this is an interesting little quirk of the Super Bowl. I feel like for the last 10 years, the NFL has been tripping over itself to find the next Kyle Shanahan, the next Sean McVay, the next play caller to lead their team as if nothing else matters. You got to have the best offensive play caller. Well, yesterday, Sean Payton lost. Sean McVay lost, and the two coaches in the Super Bowl are defensive coaches, Mike Vrabel, Mike Macdonald. What do you think about that?
Well, let's look at some of the recent hires. Who got hired in the Ravens?
Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator from the Chargers under Jim Harbaugh.
Okay. Tell me some other hires.
Robert Saleh went to Tennessee.
Again, a defensive coach.
Yeah, Jeff Hafley went to Miami.
Is he a defensive coach?
Yes, he is. He was the defensive coordinator for the Packers.
Okay, so what we're saying is the paradigm has changed.
Yep.
That the Kyle and the Kyle tree is dated.
Yep.
It's dated. That defenses have begun to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And what you need now is a defensive coach. Mm-hmm. Kyle is the wrong end. He's the wrong end. In fact, you might even make a case that it would have been better to keep Saleh and let Kyle go, according to what's happening in the league right now.
It seems like a defense-dominated league right now.
That's
scoring is down. Every team like yesterday had a killer defense except maybe the Rams.
Oh, I don't like that Shula. I don't like that Shula. I think he's a weakness there.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's interesting. You look at Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur. They're all very good play callers most of the time. Really good offensive coordinators. But they all seem to struggle with game management, clock management, when to challenge plays, like all the big picture stuff that doesn't involve sequencing your next drive. And you can see them on the sidelines thinking through their next drive while their defense is on the field. And you wonder, do offensive coaches just have a tougher time seeing the big picture during the game and reacting during the moment? Is that something that defensive coaches are a little bit more equipped for? I don't know, but it's an interesting trend.
I don't know the answer, but I'll tell you, I think defensive coaches are better organized and more disciplined than offensive coaches. I think so. I do. And I think that's why all these defensive guys are getting hired.
I agree. In addition, I think Kyle and Sean McVay have done such a good job of tutoring and mentoring and creating the next generation of offensive play callers in the NFL. There's a lot of them. And none of them are particularly great leaders, but they're good play callers. And so I think it's harder to find a cutting-edge defensive coach who can also lead and inspire. And it shouldn't be too hard for that guy to find a play caller who's loosely related to Sean McVay or not. I mean, what's interesting is DeMeco Ryans this year, he had an offensive coordinator from the Kyle Shanahan tree for 2 years, Bobby Slowick, fired him, brought in a guy from the Patriots. Not that they went that much further, but that's DeMeco saying, you know what? That scheme's outdated. I'm going a different direction. And, you know, Saleh is not hiring or hasn't hired an offensive coordinator from the Shanahan tree yet either.
Well, I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
I want to tell you what the Shanahan tree is good at. I'm not being ironic. I'm not joking. Getting good press.
Yep.
Kyle, LaFleur, McVay. Now, McVay deserves it to a certain extent. When people talk about Kyle, they talk about him as if he's a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
As if he's a genius.
Who revolutionized the sport.
Yeah. He didn't revolutionize shit. What he did is he copied his father's offense.
Yes.
He is a carbon copy coach. And when innovative thinking is required, he can't do it because he only knows his system. So he gets screwed. When he faces a team like Seattle, which has a good defense, but not that great, but sort of understands him, he's lost because his system doesn't work. If the guy in New England, the offensive coordinator, what's his name?
Josh McDaniels.
He was in a Super Bowl where it wasn't working, and he called his team together and said, we're going to change everything right now, and he did it mid-game, and they won. Yep. Kyle could never do that in a million years. He would stick to his system.
Correct. And lose.
McDaniel said, it's not working. My ego is not involved. I want to win the goddamn game. And he changed. Bill Walsh, he had things he preferred, but he was player-oriented. Get me. One time he said to me, Iggy, and he had never talked to me like this, when he retired, and George was the coach, and Bill could be pricky sometimes, but I had never talked to him like this. So he was retired, and he said, you know, I look at the 49ers now. He says, Lowell, where's the fucking running back? That's what he said to me. And I thought, boy, he had never talked to me like that. Now I was getting to know Bill because he wasn't the coach anymore. He says, where's the fucking running back? Meaning, I need players. I don't need a system.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Josh McDaniels because to me, I think that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Everyone would acknowledge that Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator who's a horrendous head coach. That's an archetype. There's an archetype. The guy who's really good at figuring out what to call and how to make the adjustment and how to score a touchdown, but can't lead a team, can't be a head coach, can't win that way. That's Josh McDaniel. And I think Kyle's clearly a better head coach than McDaniel. I mean, he was an utter failure multiple times, but he's lacking as a head coach. And I think McVay is too. I think LaFleur is too. And these guys were supposed to have like revolutionized, taken over the sport the last 10 years, but all they have to show for it is McVay's one Super Bowl victory. One. That's it. Kyle went twice and lost. McVay went twice, won once. LaFleur's never going to make it. McDaniel just got fired. It seems like it's kind of like the sun setting on their day.
Yeah. And LaFleur should have been fired. They're going nowhere with him.
He should have been fired. They're going nowhere with him. And I like what you said. The Niners probably should have kept Robert Saleh. You could have kept Robert Saleh and found another guy to call plays that knows the system. Clay Kubiak knows the system and can call plays. Gary Kubiak must have 18 kids. They keeps producing. It's not that hard. Thank God for Gary.
Hey, Iggy, I want an offensive coordinator who doesn't know the system.
Yep. It's about time to go in a different direction.
Yeah. I don't want the system.
Yep. The system produced 9 points in 8 quarters against the Seahawks. It's time to go a different direction.
Yeah, could we linger on 9 points?
Yeah.
No touchdowns.
0.
Yeah.
No hard
touchdowns.
To do. No.
They had their quarterback. They had their elite quarterback. They pay a lot of money to be elite. They have their elite running back. They pay a lot of money to be elite. They didn't get jack. No touchdowns in 8 quarters. Iggy.
And this is supposed to be an offensive team with an offensive coach and a franchise quarterback. And you're begging Gus Bradley and Nick Bosa to save you.
Yeah.
So I think that leads us to our last pick. Go ahead.
Hold on. You prefer Schneider up in Seattle to John Lynch down here?
I don't even think they have the same job.
Okay, tell me.
I think John Schneider is not just a general manager, but like a great one, a future Hall of Fame one. And I wouldn't even call John Lynch a general manager. He's a face man. He's a PR guy. He talks well. He represents the organization. It speaks for Kyle, but I don't really understand what he's in charge of, if he is in charge of anything.
Okay, so you can't compare him to Schneider because they're doing different jobs.
Like I said, Schneider grew up, cut his teeth under Ron Wolf. He took the actual traditional path to being a GM. John Lynch played the sport, was an announcer, got the job. It's a whole different thing. It's not a personnel guy. Like if you wanted to say, hey, who's a good player and who isn't, I would really want to know what John Schneider has to say. I really wouldn't put too much stock in John Lynch's opinion.
I would ask John about strong safeties.
Yeah. Although the Niners safeties aren't particularly good.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, I prefer Schneider. And I want to say another thing. You say that Lynch is a face man. He looks great. His hair is always impeccable. You look like he gets a haircut once a week. And his clothes, and he's in good shape. He must work out.
A nice watch.
He has a nice watch.
Yeah.
You look at this guy, Schneider. He looks like he might have crawled out of the hamper.
Yep.
He couldn't care less.
Needs to get a haircut, needs to shave, probably needs to drop a few pounds. But it's like, you know what? I'm the best. Give me a break.
I'm not here to charm you. I'm here to make a good team. So in that regard, I compare them 1-to-1.
Yep. I like that. And then there's Mike McDonald, who is also not there to charm you. He doesn't seem off-putting and confrontational, but he's not exactly dynamic.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Except as a coach.
Good coach. All right, Dad. How far away from returning to the Super Bowl would you say the Niners really are? They were there 2 years ago. They almost had the number 1 seed this year. They told themselves they came so close. What do you think?
Okay. Let's talk about the defense a little. I mean, I have a definite answer, but let's build up to it. We've talked a lot about the offense. So let's play a game. On the defense, Bosa comes back, and he's Bosa. He can really play the same as Bosa always played. Fred Warner comes back, and he's Fred Warner. And they get Michael Williams back. Iggy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that, and we're not talking coordinator yet, we're just talking that, or is that conglomeration a top 10 defense in the NFL?
It could be, depending on the defensive coordinator. But I just want to point out that in 2024, the Niners had Bosa for most of the year. They had Fred Warner for the whole year, and their defense gave up the 4th most points in the league. Because Nick Sorensen was an abysmal failure. I mean, if you have a bad coordinator, you could be bad no matter who you got out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we come to the coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who it's going to be.
No.
But it seems likely that it's going to be Gus Bradley. Is that a fair thing to say, Iggy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If it's Gus Bradley, they're screwed.
Yeah.
They're screwed. If you look up his record, he's had a lot of jobs, and he gets fired a lot. He doesn't get fired because he's good. And if you look up his numbers, in like total defense, he's way toward the bottom, Iggy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Why they would give the job to him is the same as keeping the fullback.
Mhm.
They're around, they're comfortable with them, they understand the system, that kind of thing. It's a very uh, it's a project lacking in enterprise. Me,
Mhm.
I want to get the best goddamn coach. I want to get the best goddamn players. I don't want to settle for a clone of Robert Saleh,
Yeah.
who's not as
And
good as
but
Robert Saleh.
what I would wanna do too is like, all right, I'm getting my ass kicked by Mike McDonald. I want someone from his staff. I wanna run his defense. Why
Ah,
would you not? Why are you trying to run Pete Carroll's defense? That's what Gus Bradley does. They installed it 15 years ago. He's going to run a version of that, maybe slightly updated. Why do you want that? You need to evolve on offense and defense. You're stuck in 2015.
okay. So we've already gone over the offense that it's dying, and the
Yep.
defense, if they have this guy, and it looks like it, is not going to be top 10. Okay, so we come back. On offense, who are the young studs that are going to, like in Jigba, that's going to make you a great team for a decade? They don't have one. They don't have a single. So you're saying how long will it
Maybe
take to
Ricky
get back?
Pearsall magically becomes a Pro Bowl player, but that's like the only hope they got. There's no one else.
Ricky, I like Ricky. I hope it is
Yeah.
Ricky, but he's the only one. So
Mhm.
you're asking when could they come back to a Super Bowl? I'm going to tell you right now, not next season.
Uh-uh.
I mean,
No.
there's going to be a lot of bullshit during training camp about how they got the right attitude, and Gus Bradley tells good stories, and CMC never felt this good. He said he was a little tired at the end of last season, but he never felt this good. And Trent Williams, he feels like a 23-year-old man. It's all a lot of bullshit that everybody, even I wrote crap like that.
Mhm.
But the fact is, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Iggy, they may not make the playoffs next season. Steve Young said, all things considered, this is a 9-8 team. I'm not
Yep.
making it up. This is
Yep.
Steve Young, and he's a 49er. 9-8 doesn't make it. 9-8
And just
doesn't
because
make
you're
it.
a 9-8 team doesn't mean you actually win 9 games. He said that the 2024 team that won 6 games, you could argue they could have been a 9-win team, but they had some bad luck. I mean, that could be the Niners this year too. They're not particularly talented.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Certainly, they don't go to the Super Bowl next season. Like, no way. But I'm saying, Iggy, unless they get a real personnel man
Yep.
who is willing to get rid of some of these players and knows who to replace them with,
Yep.
they're years away. They're so many years away, I couldn't even predict. I
Right.
couldn't even
They're like
name
wandering
the
in the
year.
desert. Because what happened is like John Schneider has shown that he's actually good at the job. He built a team once, he got rid of the coach, he got a new coach, he built a brand new team with 53 new players and they're going to the Super Bowl. That's not a fluke. He can put together a Super Bowl roster. John put together one, they went to 2, but it was the same team and they didn't win and they haven't been able to reinvent the team. It's still Juszczyk, it's still Kittle, it's still Warner, it's still all those players they got before the pandemic hit, before COVID-19 was a thing. And that to me indicates that maybe the front office got kind of lucky. George Kittle in the 5th, Fred Warner in the 3rd, Brock Purdy in the 7th. Like you miss on every first round pick. And now that you've paid all these guys, you can't afford to miss anymore. You need to get these picks right, and you're not. And that's why I can't see the Niners going back to the Super Bowl with John Lynch as their general manager. You have to build a new team, and I don't think they can. I don't know if Kyle can do it either.
Well, right. So clearly, maybe they need someone above Lynch or has a different job description. They need an Elliot Wolf.
Yep.
They need a John Schneider. They don't have
They need a
anybody
guy who
like
gets
that.
the draft picks right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And has a vision of what the team should be.
Yep.
I call it a philosopher.
Yep.
I think that Bill Walsh had a vision. I want this because of this. I want this because of this. This will work with this. I have a feeling
And
they're
Schneider
ad
has
hoc.
a vision too. It's not just Mike.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want.
No.
No.
No. Mike, this is how we're going to do it. This is the kind of team we want. Can you
Now, of course,
coach
I want to
these?
get players that fit your system, but we have things we look for. We have a
Yeah.
size, speed, competitiveness, violence that we have to that make them Seahawks. So we're going to have to meet in the middle on this.
And Iggy, there used to be a thing that made them 49ers.
Yep.
There used to be a thing, a 49er. It's not like that anymore. Kyle Juszczyk is a 49er. Tom
I just
Rathman
want to point
was.
out that this front office that they've held on to for a long time was originally put together by Scott McCloughan, who was in Green Bay with Schneider. They had the same mentorship. They had the same path to becoming general managers. Now, we know what happened with McCloughan. He had his personal demons and stuff, but the Niners used to be like Seattle. When Jim Harbaugh was here, the Niners were just as big and tough and fast and violent as Seattle. Now, not anymore.
So, Iggy, when I say I can't even name the number of years before they go back to a Super Bowl, how many years do you say?
I mean, if they keep John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they're not going back to the Super Bowl.
Well, that's I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah. If they bring in a new GM, that's a whole different thing. Maybe they draft really well the next couple of years and they have a really young team in their back. But if they hold on to this and it's John and Kyle and Brock, they're not going back. They're just going to be struggling to make the playoffs year in, year out.
You know how I said when Bill, after he retired, he said to me on the phone, "Where's the fucking running back?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what he would say to me here? "Where are the fucking young players?
Yep.
Where are the fucking future stars?" That's what he'd say to me, Iggy.
Yeah.
So how do you let this happen?
It's a young man's game. Look what we did. We didn't hold on to our guys too long. We weren't sentimental. Joe had to leave. Ronnie had to leave. Roger had to leave.
Jerry had to leave.
Jerry had to leave. We were not sentimental.
Left.
The Niners talking about, oh man, that's a guy. This guy's a Niner for life, and he deserves to be in the 10-year wall.
And he's a
man.
core.
What the fuck does that mean?
And he's a core player.
What? Did Bill ever talk to you about that?
Never heard the word from him.
No. All right.
Oh.
Super Bowl prize picks. Super Bowl prize picks and then super chats. Sam Darnold, 229.5 against a very good Patriots defense. What do you think, Dad?
What did he have yesterday, Iggy?
346.
I'd say more.
Okay. I like it. Drake May, 224.5 passing yards. He had 86 yesterday, but it was snowing.
Fewer.
That's good. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go rushing yards. Kenneth Walker, 76.5. He had 62 yesterday.
I'd say fewer.
Yeah, that's a good defense in New England. Ramondre Stevenson, their running back, 52.5 rushing yards. 52.5, not a lot.
Fewer.
Okay. It's going to be a tough game with a lot of defense. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 93.5 receiving yards.
Whatever. More. Whatever.
More.
Iggy, I love to watch him play.
Yeah. He's a great player. All right. We're going to stick with 5 today. Go with 5. Those are our picks. Flex it. Put in $100. Because I'm feeling confident. Flex it. Submit it. Download it. Download Prize Picks. Use promo code COHN. Play just $5 and you get $50 instantly in lineups when you use promo code COHN. All right, super chat time, Dad. BB108 says 2 NFC West teams winning a Super Bowl before Kyle Shanahan is a bad look.
It's more than a bad look.
It's more than a bad look. TP Media TV says if Sam Darnold wins Super Bowl, will it show he's better than Brock Purdy and why?
We already addressed that, and we're not saying he's better than Brock.
No, he's on a better team than Brock. VC Nick says, what position on the O-line do you draft first? Left guard? I don't think you can go wrong. You need a guard, you need a center, you need a tackle. Just get a guy who's really good. Left guard would be great, though. Left guard would be great. Tommy Huxley says, what happens when Sammy gets the bag? You know, he's got 2 years left on his contract, and if he wants $50 million a year, I'm not sure that the Seahawks would just give it to him. It'd be interesting to see what happens to Sam Darnold. He's still got a lot to prove. And he's got a good contract right now. VC Nick says these are all such bad takes about Purdy. Stats don't lie, but apparently these two like to. Purdy has more touchdowns, fewer turnovers, and won more playoff games.
Then who?
than Darnold.
Okay, he has a better past than Darnold. We're talking about the present.
It's true.
And we're saying they're close. They're close. We didn't say that Darnold is better, but we said he had a better last 2 seasons. We're just talking about that. Yeah. So you're saying that we lie, that we like to lie?
I don't know about that.
If you think that Purdy had a better last 2 seasons than Darnold, God love you.
Then he says, wouldn't be saying any of this had the Niners beat Seattle.
But it's like saying if your grandmother had
praising the Niners if they beat Seattle. You're right. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's how if your grandmother had testicles, she'd be your grandfather.
And he says completely overreacting because the Niners lost to the number 1 seed. They didn't just lose, though.
We're overreacting. I love it. VC Nick, you're entitled to your opinion. They didn't lose. They got chased out of the stadium. They got embarrassed. Their whole program got called into question. And the fact that the Rams could do better the next week proves it.
In addition, we haven't even talked about special teams because it's like, why would you talk about it? But that's another area where the Seahawks are great. They have that returner, Rashid Shaheed, who's incredible. The Niners don't. So that's another area where the Niners need to catch the Seahawks. VC Nick got you. Adam Mann says, trade Purdy to Arizona for McBride. Keep Jones.
I wouldn't mind if they kept Jones. But I think they need them both. That's the other thing, Iggy. Let's linger.
Yeah.
Another thing, they need to keep Mac Jones because Purdy is vulnerable, especially all the running around he does.
Yeah.
They would have been screwed this season if they didn't have Mac Jones. So they need to keep him. They need both.
Yeah. Gizmo Maltese says Niners need to go all in next year like they did in 94 in terms of free agents. After that, they need to rebuild.
I couldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, if you're going to keep holding on to these older players, like make a push. Frisco Shills says Purdy's game evolved this year. In the first 4 games, Purdy's TD to INT ratio was 8-7 and then 14-6 for the last 5 games. In playoffs, Purdy's improved against McDonald. Kyle's plays are the same. I don't know about that. Again, go watch Kurt Warner's video breakdown. Why is Brock consistently looking to the side of the field he shouldn't be? I'd like to know. VC Nick says Lions got worse when they lost their play caller. Yeah, the other guy that they just fired is pretty bad. Revolutionary Captain says defense-dominated league is bad for business. Expect more penalties on defense next season. Lyle was creative in 2019, but has been in decline since. It's true. Dr. Rockman says, as a former quarterback, the reason you look at an unfavorable side is because teams disguise looks pre-snap. You don't know what they will rotate to post-snap. You have to go through progressions, even if the look isn't favorable.
No. If you look at what Kurt Warner said on the one play where he fumbled and he looked to 5 different guys on a progression, he said they didn't disguise the coverage. Iggy, right? That it was right there, corners coverage. And quarters coverage. And that Purdy did not adjust correctly.
In addition, there was another play where Kyle called a route combination where the inside receiver runs a post, the outside receiver Pearsall runs like a curl and then spin out to go deep, and McCaffrey comes in the flat on a swing route. And he points out, like, you can see that Purdy decided before the snap that he was going to throw to Pearsall. When that's fine, but the post could be open before Pearsall even makes his break. So you have to keep your eye out for it. And the post was open for a big gain in the red zone, and Purdy never saw him. So that's on him too. Dr. Rockman, if that is your real name. Jeff Myers, 2109, $5. Thank you. Charlie Sinclair says Harbaugh and McDaniel going to feed families. That'll be fun. Those two together. Big Zabo says, remember Darren Sproles, make McCaffrey that. Darren Sproles was a lot quicker than McCaffrey is at this point in his career. Dad, just an incredible job today.
Iggy, didn't you have an imaginary character when you were a kid, Rockman?
Yeah. George Roxman? Roxman. George Roxman.
You had an imaginary character that used to talk to and stuff.
Yeah.
George Roxman.
He was a businessman, and he had a suit, and he had a briefcase. He's very serious. We didn't really talk about much. He was in and out, you know.
But you did have George Roxman.
George Roxman, yeah. Maybe that's him.
You were like 4 or 5 years old. I think Mom even wrote a story about George Roxman.
Yeah, maybe even younger than that. Well, Dr. Rockman, good to see you after all these years. The young Montana's been a member for 53 months. Thank you very much. Dad, I love you. You've been phenomenal.
I love you, Iggy, and I'll see you whenever.
I'll see you when I see you. See you
See you when I
guys.
see you.